There seems to be a controversy over prayer in society today with regard to its appropriateness or inappropriateness in certain situations, including your spiritual life and its progress. Some school of thought believes that where there is a world crisis to be addressed and where there are problems in society, in a country to be solved, or where there are political differences, prayer has no place there, especially when the one who prays, their behaviors do not improve or even reflect any signs of godliness, at least in the onlooker's eyes. There are even some, including spiritual teachers today, who apparently, and I use the word apparently for a reason, who believe that instead of praying, you should just zip it, stay quiet, and meditate. Now, the reason I use the word apparently, it's because sometimes you see these things posted online, but they're taken out of context. And therefore, what the spiritual teacher has said is you have to understand the message in it. And to get the true meaning and essence, you have to know the full story, the full picture, to see how those few lines, how they were said, and in what context. So, what should you do? What is the best path to take? Should you pray? Not pray? Should you just zip it? Should you meditate? Which should you use? Well, to decipher this, let us first look at what prayer is and determine if there is any real value and power in praying. And if so, when you pray, why does it work or why does it not work? So what is prayer? Prayer is really words spoken either loudly or in thought quietly, but it comes from your heart with a particular intention. Based on this intention, it carries with it a certain energy and vibration. And prayer can be in the form of a request or a complaint, which many of us are aware of. It can be in a form of praise and worship or even thanksgiving. But prayer is really a form of communication with an intelligence or power that is greater than yourself. And we call that intelligence God, that power God. And it carries with it, it is really an energy and a vibration that you are sending out into the universe, into the atmosphere, that can do different things for you. So, when you communicate with that intelligence through prayer, and it is done sincerely from your heart, what can happen? Well, when you do that, it makes you feel connected to something that is all powerful, that is wiser, that is greater than you. And you feel as though you're in capable care of this mighty power that we call God. So what happens is that you start to develop an intimate connection and relationship. And when you do that, devotion starts to stir and love develops in your heart. And we know that in our world today, we need a lot of that. So when this happens, prayer brings about a level of relief in your life because it's a place where you can release all your burdens. And when you release those burdens in the form of surrender, what happens? You start to feel as though a weight is lifted. And when you feel that weight is lifted, what happens to you? You start to calm down and you become comforted. It pacifies you. And when you become pacified, what is happening is that the mind starts to quieten down and all your crazy thoughts and emotions start to subside. And when those crazy thoughts and emotions you have start to subside, what happens is that hope arises and hopelessness starts to disappear. Your faith increases, and in the absence of those wild thoughts and emotions, what can happen? Clarity can come about. And when clarity arises, you can even get a vision or some idea or some insightful way to do something beneficial that you would not have otherwise thought of. And when this happens, you start to feel encouraged and you feel inspired. And when you feel encouraged and inspired, you start to build strength to take whatever step you need to take in life and to do whatever it is you need to do. And life starts to brighten. So if prayer can trigger all of these, we know prayer has great power to improve your life. But for that to happen, prayer must have certain elements or qualities to it to get these outcomes. There must be right intention. And when prayer lacks the elements and qualities to give it right intention, such as in a case whereby you pray like a beggar, using God only as a dumping ground for your troubles, and many of us have done that, I have done it. What happens is that your intention ends up being one of a begging and a complaining. And this type of intention has a low energy and vibration that keeps you in a low and unchanged state or even place or situation. So you get low energy results. You don't feel better, you are not changing, and you are not doing anything better. And people and even situations may not be improving. And you feel, when this happens, you start to feel as though your prayers are not working. And you can even feel as though you're in a wilderness period. And I've experienced that. You can look at the Holy Bible. There are many stories who've walked through that wilderness period. And so when this happens and you're not getting good results, this is when spiritual teachers may have a tendency to tell you, well, if you're praying like that, it's better you stay quiet. Go sit in a corner and meditate, because you are not getting effective results. At least there is no change in your state of being. And that is what prayers should at least be able to accomplish, a change in your state of being. So the power in your prayer is based not just on the words you're saying or reciting to this greater power to God. It has to have a certain intention behind it, because this intention is what energizes your prayer and gives it certain power. For your prayer to work wonders in your life, let us now look at some key elements, qualities, or nature that it should carry for right intention. And I'm going to be using some keywords, and I leave that up to you to pull them out for reference. So we all know that when we turn to God in prayer, most people just turn to Him, never really to get to know Him, to know how He works, and to know His ways. So let us look at the reality. When you turn to God in prayer, basically you're taking to Him your problems. You want relief from them. So by all means, the first thing to do is say your problems. Offload, but do so in a surrendered way unto this capable power, this great intelligence that we call God. And when you do that, you're going to feel, of course, less burdened, and you're going to feel free and lighter. The next thing, the next quality must be present, or element that must be present is the next one is pray as a believer, not as a mere beggar or complainer. In the Holy Bible, in Matthew chapter 21, verse 22, it says, and all, not some, and all things whatsoever ye shall ask, whether it's solutions, directions, guidance for your troubles, whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive. knock on the door shall open, seek and ye shall find. But this is not just about a mere belief. It is really about having faith and a conviction. You are convinced that your prayer is answered. In Matthew chapter 17, verse 20, Jesus says, if ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. Now, what does this convey? It conveys that you may have a little faith, but you must be convinced. There must be conviction that this mountain, this obstacle is removed. Not will be removed, it is removed. Okay? And so conviction must be present. So it's not just about a mere belief. It is not just about asking. It is not just about a mere belief. It is about having faith. And it's not just about faith. It's about having conviction. In the next verse, Jesus even goes on to talk about the importance of prayer and fasting. And what does fasting do when you have problems and you need to have it offloaded and you need solutions? What fasting does is it does one thing. At least one of your senses, our senses, or indriyas, as we say in Sanskrit, gets withdrawn. The sense of taste that pulls you outward. So in prayer and fasting, what happens? When you fast, you get pulled inwardly in communion with God. And what does that do? It puts you in the right state and connectivity with that higher, purer, intelligent power. So the next element of prayer should be pray with thanksgiving and surrender. Again, in the Holy Bible, in Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 to 7, it says, in everything, not some things, in everything, in every situation, by prayer and supplication. And what supplication here means, it's not about begging. It's really about humility, not forcing, but actually surrendering, giving up your sense of doership, which often brings you suffering and misery, surrendering, not holding on, but letting go what you want into the universal intelligence or God, into that power. Let it do its work. Because when you hold on, you stifle. You don't give the power the opportunity to do the work that you need done in your favor. So in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving. And thanksgiving, why thanksgiving? Because you know it's a done deal. So you're advised to do it with thanksgiving. Consider it done. You praise and you worship. Thanksgiving is about praising and worship. And when you praise and worship, you stir up love and devotion in your heart. And we all need that today in our lives, in society, in everything we set out to do in life. And it stirs up that devotion in you. And it goes on to say, and in this state, let your requests be known unto God. And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall fill your minds and hearts. So when you know it's all done, it's a done deal, and love and devotion is in your heart, you praise and you worship, peace alights upon you. It passeth all understanding. And why does it say it passeth all understanding? Because you know what? Currently, your life might be in a mess. Things are not going your way. But you're at peace. And many people will not be able to understand why you have that peace. So the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall fill your minds and hearts. When you give thanks and you surrender and you're at peace, what happens? Your state of being is now elevated and you're in a transformed state. It is from this transformed state which is of a higher frequency, that higher frequency change can occur because it is from this transformed and elevated state that you get the courage now and the strength to do whatever it is you need to do in life. High frequency change cannot take place from a low frequency state of being. So when you pray as a beggar, what happens? You are praying negatively. Which works against what you want. When you pray as a believer with thanksgiving, with love and devotion and surrender, you are actually praying positively in favor of what you want. And what you do in that place is that you start to create a space or even a place for all of His possibilities, where even miracles can occur. And therefore, it is not limited to your little possibility, your little request. The next one is to pray in unison. Now, my guru, who is no longer here on earth, over 20 years ago, I learned from him this idea. He always told us to make sure that what we think, what's in our heart, what we say, what we do must all be in alignment. And bringing it into the context of praying for your troubles or whatever it is you turn to God for. You must now pray in unison, whereby what's in your heart, what it is you truly want, your prayer, and your thoughts, your way of thinking, and your speech and actions must all be congruent. There must be no conflict with each other. They must actually exist. They must be in a unified field of energy. And when that happens, you're going to find that you're going to have the right attitude and the right behavior. You wouldn't even have to try to change attitude because all of these are in alignment. And when they're in that unified field, that is what creates change. When they're out of sync, you want one thing in your heart, you're thinking another thing, you're doing something else, you're saying something else, they can all end up conflicting with each other and will not work favorably for you. Likewise, if you have somebody praying with you and for you, let it be in unison. In Matthew, again in the Holy Bible, in Matthew chapter 18, verse 19, Jesus says, "If two of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven." So pray with unison. It is said that a family that prays together stays together. If you enter somebody's home where they pray, you're going to notice that there is a different energy and vibration in that atmosphere, in that home. It's a very sacred one. And you find this even in churches or any other type of spiritual centers. You'd find some level of sacredness you feel. Why is this so? Because the underlying link in prayer is about connecting with divinity, with that greater intelligence, with that sacredness, even if you are offloading your problems. If you walk into somebody's home where there is heavy, aggressive music that is played continuously, you are actually going to pick up and feel a heaviness in the atmosphere compared to when you walk into somebody's home where they pray, "God bless me, help me to get through my troubles. I thank you, God. I love you, God." Notice the difference in the vibration and the energy. You're going to feel that great difference. Prayers and mantras, whether they are said in the English language, whether they are said in Sanskrit or some other language, they carry a vibration that actually purifies the atmosphere in your home and in your aura. And it stirs a divine love and devotion. Let us look, for example, at this universal prayer. And I'm going to say it in Sanskrit. It's said in Sanskrit. And for people who are of a different religious background, please know this is not Hinduism. So be open, keep your mind open. And it's a beautiful prayer. And it goes like this. It says, Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. This prayer says, O dear Lord, lead me from ignorance to truth, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. Let there be peace, peace, peace. This prayer alone says, really, why should any spiritual teacher discourage you from, or anybody discourage you from praying? Look at the beauty in this prayer. Now, the next time you sit to pray, I want you to take notice of whether or not your prayers contain all the elements we've talked about so far for it to work effectively. So we know that prayer can bring good results as well as no good results, depending upon the power of intention and its quality. Okay? So the question comes down to, should you pray or stay quiet and go shut up, go in a corner? Well, I'll tell you this. Let me help you figure this out. Every day you will open your mouth to say something, to speak. You're going to make some noise, whether it's about political issues in the world or in your country, about world events, whether it's about talking about somebody, you may say something ill about somebody. You may even quarrel and fight in your home. Okay? So instead of doing and making all this kind of noise, why not open your mouth and pray in the right way, as it can transform you and can even change outcomes. And because prayer has great value and power in it, it would at least help you to cope with life's challenges. So why pretend? Why stop praying? Why stay quiet? Please, by all means, pray. So the question now is, should you meditate or should you pray? Which is better? Is meditation any better than prayer? We tend to use the word meditate very loosely when what we really mean is that we are using some system or technique to arrive at that meditative state. And there are many different techniques out there. The common one nowadays is breathing exercises. There is one called Jyotir or light meditation, which is very healing and very calming. And there is Kriya Yoga and many others. But I'm not here really to get into depths of all the different meditation techniques. I'm really discussing meditation just as a means to help you deal with life. Now, some people who use a meditative path, they experience peace immediately, but most often cannot sustain it on a daily basis, or they may use their techniques to help them get through their troubling times. This is because it takes many continuous years of continuous practice to actually reach a heightened state of meditation. Now, I'm a great believer in meditation, and I encourage it as a means to know thyself beyond all your needs, all your burdens, all your wants and desires, beyond this mind, body, and senses. If you decide to do meditation, of course, I'm going to always recommend that you find yourself a true meditation teacher, a true guru. If meditation techniques, when you use them, bring you into a transformed state of being, whereby you're at peace no matter what is going on in your life, and it strengthens your willpower to do what it is you need to do, and it brings you results, as when you pray, it is beneficial to you, in other words, then by all means meditate. You don't need somebody to tell you that. It definitely is going to transform your aura and your state of being. It can even give you vision, insight, and clarity, new ideas. It will definitely elevate the vibration and atmosphere of your home and even improve and transform your relationships. So, by all means, if meditation can do all of this for you, go right ahead and meditate. So, which should you choose? Should you pray or should you meditate? Which is better? I would say do what works for you, not what somebody dictates as being better. Okay? Some people cannot even sit still and meditate. They tend to get very agitated, but they can actually sit still and pray, and they become pleasant within and toward others. Then there are some people who can actually sit and meditate and won't pray because they become very quiet within, and it gives them the power to feel as though they can conquer the world, any troubles in life. The important thing is whatever you choose is to look at the shift that occurs in you that helps you to cross the troubled waters in life, because this is the context in which I'm addressing this topic of praying and meditation. So choose what keeps your mind and thoughts and everything divine and godly, not on negativity and evil, but of Brahman or God, that supreme state of consciousness. Whether you're a political leader or a CEO of a company or a janitor or a householder, do what you need to do on a practical level to resolve any issue that you are faced with in life, and do it in combination with prayer or meditation. If these give you strength and courage, heals, restores, vision, brings you clarity, it brightens and lightens your world, you feel supported, it comforts and makes you feel safe and secure, it encourages and elevates you, and it calms you and pacifies you, then you don't have to be bothered about other people's opinions. I personally use both prayer and meditation in my life, as both have value and great power to ease my burdens and to help me through this journey of life with all its challenges, so that I do not become a menace to society. Because without this, without prayer and meditation, this can actually give a result whereby when we exclude God, we can end up being worse off and therefore worse off to others. You know, those leaders who pray, or anybody else in whatever capacity you're functioning, anybody who prays and you do not see what you want to see in them or of them, know that without this sacred act of prayer in their lives, they could have been worse off in their state of being and therefore worse off in their behaviors. So do not be too quick to judge and condemn them, saying their prayer is actually a waste of time. So should you pray or meditate? When the time comes, I will tell you this, and you find that you do not need to pray, not because you're lazy or you feel as though you're above it all, but because meditation now supports you, you wouldn't have to struggle and make some great effort not to pray, to stop the praying, because somebody dictates that to you. It would happen very naturally with ease, and you're going to find that praying may fall away and meditation occurs. There will be no fight. So choose what works for you. I will leave you now and end off with a quotation from one of India's ancient texts called the Bhagavad-Gita. So those of you of different religious background, please stay open. This is not about religiousness, okay? It says here, even if the vilest sinner worships me, God, the universal intelligence, the greater intelligence, divine intelligence, with exclusive devotion, he should be accounted a saint, for he has rightly resolved himself. Speedily he becomes virtuous and secures lasting peace. Know it for certain that my devotee never falls.